We got Gators Breakdown here. We know we're business.
Gators Breakdown, because there's never a dull moment in Gator Nation.
The Gators Breakdown podcast is ready to go. I am your host, David Waters. You can find me on social media at GatorDave_SEC. We're going to extend our fall camp look. And of course, Gators' first scrimmage. Billy Napier had a lot to say about that scrimmage. We'll get into his reaction and mainly focus on the tackling and then the explosive plays. So explosive plays on offense, tackling on defense. That was kind of the main takeaways from an overall, I think, good scrimmage, Billy Napier had to say. But it did bring up those two topics that we will extend on right here on Gators Breakdown. And then we'll take a look at that wide receiver position as well, as I mentioned. We'll go through those position battles, ever so important position battles through fall camp. And so, we will save wide receiver for this episode because we get to hear from Chimere Dike and also just kind of what happened in that scrimmage from the wide receiver spot as well. So certainly lots to get into as fall camp just keeps on chugging along. We got a lot to discuss here on the football. And look, we'll hear from Asa Turner as well. Another transfer. We'll hear from, like I said, Chimere Dike at the wide receiver spot, but also Asa Turner. And take a look at that safety group. That position group will go a long way as far as tackling goes on defense, of course. Huge issue there last year. I think it's going to be better this year. But we'll get into those aspects. But first, everybody, hit that like button. If you're watching on YouTube, that really helps us out. You see that little smash button, that little thumbs up? Smash it right there. Give us a like right here on YouTube. Subscribe right here as well if you haven't done so yet, or your favorite podcast platform. And here we go. Not much time left, of course. Like I said, it's a custom shirt, gatorsbreakdownmerch.com to get that Beat Miami shirt if you want it in time for game day. We got about, 2 weeks left till the game. And since it's custom, it will take a little bit longer to get to you. But so if you want the Beat Miami shirt, make sure you order in time. Or, you can help us out. Support, get some of those other designs there. But check them all out, gatorsbreakdownmerch.com. And of course, Gators Breakdown Plus, link is in the description to join. A lot of good discussion there lately with fall camp and going through a big recruiting week there for Gators as well with Ben Hanks and his commitment on the horizon, Fitzgerald as well toward the end of the week. We'll cover that right here on Gators Breakdown. But that conversation, all the recruiting conversations, there's a recruiting room, of course, and then the main chat where we discuss football just in general, but the extra episodes. We'll have some voice chats coming up, of course, during the season. Probably one of those coming up soon as well. And ad-free episodes. Link is in the description to join Gators Breakdown Plus. All right, so let's keep it going throughout fall camp, and let's get Billy Napier's thoughts on the Gators' first scrimmage from last Saturday.
We had a really good scrimmage Saturday. It was extremely competitive. It was back and forth. I think overall we got what we wanted to get accomplished. We were 122 plays of offense and defense. We were right on our number. We got really good work in the kicking game, too, in all 6 phases. I think offensively we want to try to create more explosive plays. We want to do a better job on conversion downs. And I think the tempo needs to pick up a little bit. We need to improve in our 2-minute operation. And then defensively, a lot of plays where we got 10 right and 1 wrong, where, the good teams that we play will expose that, right? So consistency is what we're looking for. The tackling was good outside of a handful of plays, and I think those proved to be costly. So we've got to continue. If we want to have a good football team, we've got to be a really good tackling team. But the effort and the pursuit was good. And overall, the film was really clean on all parts of the team. And I think that between play process, it's one thing to practice, it's another thing to play the game. I think special teams, our coverage units need to improve. But overall, man, really good day. I think overall it was just much more intense, much faster, more physical, less loafs. The film's cleaner. We're just deeper. There's not a you put the first and second group out there, it's a good football play, right? And even the threes I thought played pretty clean in the scrimmage. So I think the biggest thing is I go back to, it's about the human beings inside the jersey and the helmet and the shoulder pads. I think ultimately that's why I really respect this team is there's chemistry, there's really good relationships, there's good leadership. That's where we made the most progress, and I think that's helped us play a little bit better ball.
To continue Napier's thoughts, and look, I'm not trying to sound any alarm bells here with these issues. It's still early, but if Napier's bringing them up, it's fair game. We can discuss. That's what we are going to do here. That's what we always do here. I don't think it's cause for concern this early in fall camp, though. For those items of the explosive plays and the tackling, I can't take it that far yet. I'm not going to take it that far yet, but we will discuss on the explosive plays. Napier said, look, we moved the ball really well. We were very consistent. We scored a lot of points, but I'm just saying we know that explosive plays are a significant piece of winning. So we were a little short of our goal, and that's an area we're trying to put an emphasis on this week, in the quote. So, of course, we know it was a focus this spring. There's a focus this offseason and camp. We heard Billy Napier discuss it at SEC Media Days about the tempered aggression he wants to see from Graham Mertz. And, these explosive plays, pushing the ball down the field. But going back from spring to offseason to fall camp, not expecting it to be a well-oiled machine in the first scrimmage. And I certainly don't know enough of why the explosives didn't meet their goal. Now, we talked offensive line. That was a popular subject on social media the last couple of days of my thoughts along the offensive line, the last episode as well. But is it on the offensive line not protecting long enough? You can go back to the last episode of Gators Breakdown and the eventful last couple of days on Twitter where I expressed my concern about the offensive line, particularly the right side of the offensive line. Was the lack of explosive because of a lack of time? There are other factors, of course, we have to factor in. Did the quarterback not take the chances? Did the wide receivers not get separation? Each play could have been a different reason. Now, I think with Florida, still not totally set and confident on the right side of that offensive line. The wide receivers still battling for snaps. There's reason enough there to see why they may not have met their goal in the explosive plays. It certainly doesn't sound like Florida didn't have any explosive plays, and we've seen the highlights. There were some explosive plays there, but you heard Billy Napier say they didn't meet their goal. Have heard it was a pretty good day overall for the wide receivers. We'll talk about that battle and that group coming up. But there's a myriad of reasons of why they didn't meet their goal in explosive plays. I don't think anything to be worried about at the moment. So let's go to the other side of the ball. In defense, specifically tackling in the scrimmage. Overall, Napier says, the tackling was good. I just think there's 8 or 10. I think we had 20 missed tackles on the day, which we played 122 snaps. I think the ball got loose a little bit. Loose play, perimeter plays, check downs, perimeter check downs, some runs that rolled off the table where we misfit. Then they turn into 8-yard gains, turn into 22-yard gains. Very correctable. But overall, tackling was good. So we just hit on explosive plays and how that was the main focus for the offense from last season. Well, we know tackling is the main focus on the other side of the ball, on the defensive side of football. Napier bringing it up as, it was mostly good outside of a handful of plays is, to me, it's still noteworthy. And for me, because of limiting explosive plays the other way on defense. We just discussed the offense getting the explosive plays, but we all know that this defense needs to limit them as well. Last season, the defense was better down to down, but a missed tackle here, a missed tackle there, and a routine play turns into an explosive or a chunk play, erasing all the good you did. So I'm still going to lean glass half full here, and we'll get into reasons why. And not worry too much about this one, despite, I think the big worry about, the worry about the offensive line talk is because, it's just been quite a while since you've, the offensive line has been so up and down for so long at Florida. There's been some good years in 2012. At times under Mullen, it wasn't a drop dead issue. In 2020 it was. I think it held Florida's offense back from being even better. Go back to a couple years ago, Napier's first year. I think run blocking was exceptional. Anthony Richardson at quarterback helped them out, but I still think overall a good offensive line. But for the most part, it's been a big worry for it seems like a decade at least at Florida. And y'all know my buddy Bill Sykes has preached from the mountaintop, done a lot of research of that position group, and one reason why, reasons of why it has struggled at Florida. It's been forever. So I get, when I bring it up, others bring it up. When there's a concern there, it's going to be blasted. Still time to figure some things out. And tackling's kind of been the same issue. Nowhere near as consistent of an issue overall for the last decade or so. But, certainly recently on defense. A lot of it last year as well. So I think that's why you can get pinged a little bit when Napier brings up offensive line, when he brings up tackling. But I'm not worried either issue. I'd still be more concerned about the offensive line. But tackling, we're going to go into it and just hit it here in just a second. I'm really not that worried about it. That's one where we're going to have to really get to some games. I do think there has been steps there. Steps made on that side of the ball, players, transfer portal, returning players, coaching changes that I think are going to make a huge difference on that side of the ball. Tackling being one of them. So, it has been an issue. I get it when it's brought up again, but as Napier said, overall good day. But look, it's 122 plays. We don't know what lineups were out there, how deep down the depth chart some of these guys out there were, the mixing and matching of players at different level, your first team, second team, third team. So the comments, look, they certainly can ping, but I haven't heard any issues from the inside of a worry about tackling right now. If anything, better. Nothing really either way, but just the general that is better. And then shout out to Pober on the Gators Online message board. I saw that he had a notification that he brought me up there at that, and brings up another positive way to look at this. He said, quote, listen to Gators Breakdown episode with Ron Roberts and his quotes. He said, if we play 80 snaps, we would want missed tackles to be in the single digits. So at the scrimmage, probably higher than they wanted to for the first scrimmage. But the first scrimmage since spring, not bad. Hope it continues to improve in his thought there. So, look, 20 missed tackles again on the day, 122 snaps. Yes, I want to see it improve as well. But without full details here, I'm okay with what we heard from Napier. And like I said, we're about to get into it. Other reasons why I don't think tackling will be as much of an issue as it was. I think it will be improved. I think it will certainly be improved. There's still levels to this. I want it to be great. I don't want it to be just improved. I want it to be great. I think there's reasons to believe it will be so. One player that did well, we go back to the scrimmage, in pursuit and tackling in the scrimmage, was transfer safety Asa Turner. Let's hear from Billy Napier on the importance of bringing him in.
What does the player bring to the table besides his experience, his traits, his production? And I would be lying if I didn't say, hey, I want a guy who's been around a winter and who understands what good culture looks like, has played in some big games. And he's definitely brought those things to our team. He was recruited by Chris Peterson, and Jimmy Lake had a relationship with Coach Harris, I think his freshman year. So we knew a lot about him, and he started a lot of games and played a lot of football. So he definitely has rubbed off on the group just in terms of self-discipline. I mean, this guy, he's in the building as much as I am. I mean, sometimes I come over here on the weekends, there's Asa. So I think he has a very professional attitude, and I think that culture under Coach Peterson, Coach Lake, even Coach DeBoer, I think some of that carried over. So he's definitely brought that to our team, and I think that's been beneficial for the group.
To me, Asa Turner, Pup Howard, they may end up being the most important transfers in this class, certainly for the defense. And think about the safety position last year. I'm going to shift the conversation a little bit to safety overall for a second before we get back to Asa Turner. But guys, let's go back a year. 1 year ago, we were set on thinking this was going to be the Kamari Wilson and Miguel Mitchell show. Those guys were going to be the safeties. And then we get to game week, we get to the Utah game, and it's true freshman Jordan Castell and it's transfer RJ Moten lining up on the back end. One big play to start Utah, start the season off with. Of course, things change but Jordan Castell played admirably as a true freshman early on in the season. Took his bumps later in the year. But, I mean, not going to fault him for out there playing as a true freshman. Throughout the season, it ends up mostly being Castell and Miguel Mitchell throughout the season. But think about it. Who could Jordan Castell really learn from last year? I just gave you the guys that we thought were going to be the starters, and Kamari Wilson, Miguel Mitchell. There wasn't a lot of experience between those guys. You did bring in RJ Moten, as I said, but failure on that first play versus Utah, not really set up for safety in the SEC. Got injured last year. Now he's moving to linebacker. I mean, you can see how much of a mess the safety position was if we go back a year ago. Thankfully, Florida had Jordan Castell. But what could he really learn? Or who could he really learn from last year? Who could he lean on? Not really anyone. He was all instincts and learning on the job, all while playing the most snaps out of anybody on defense. And all this comes after playing corner in high school, and he went on to play really well under those circumstances. We know a mess the secondary was last year. Corey Raymond on now to LSU. It wasn't a great environment, and Jordan Castell made the best of it. And he admits he was figuring things out as he was going along. And he kind of had to look confident more than he really felt confident. He couldn't really show the doubt or lack of belief in himself. He had to go out there and play football. He had to go out there and be a reliable player on a pretty bad Gator defense. He was a shining light as a true freshman. And look, he even said a lot of it was new. I played a little safety in high school, but it was almost strictly a corner. So I was playing man. A lot of things like just go out there with confidence. If I see something, believe it, in the quote. And he goes on to say, the good thing I had was a lot of guys believing me by showing up in practice and all that and being the same guy every day. That helped out a lot. Now think about what Napier said about Asa Turner. Jordan Castell learned a lot last year, but now he has a partner back there, an experienced partner, one he can lean on, one he can trust in Asa Turner. Trust is a big deal on that back end. Corner, safety, both safeties back there together. You've got to have a lot of trust. And it's spreading back there with the addition of Asa Turner. Well, he's not alone, though. Go back to a year ago, Jordan Castell's playing as a true freshman. There was a lot of 2023 freshman DBs that now can play with some confidence. Bryce Thornton, another fellow safety there. He's going to get a lot of playing time this year, even with Asa Turner, Jordan Castell as the presumed starters. Sharif Denson, Aaron Gates, a great battle going on there at Star. All these guys can benefit. Gates, he's got to bounce back from injury a bit, but you can see it. Had an interception in the scrimmage. It's going to be a good battle there. But all these guys can benefit from their own experience and then the experience of the transfers like Turner, DJ Douglas, Triquez Bridges. They have somebody to lean on. Now, those guys didn't play at Florida last year, of course, but they played a lot of football. For Asa Turner, for a team that's making the college football playoff, there's a lot more to lean on in that room this year. But Castell did go on to say, I'm way more comfortable, but it's not just me. It's all the freshmen that came with me. So that's a good thing for me for sure. I'm fully confident now. I've got experience. I feel a lot better, and I think a lot of guys in my grade feel a lot more confident out there. Look, it's one of the main reasons he's so sure that this defense is going to be better. I think that bleeds over into us in the fan base. This defense is going to be better. I fully believe that. I really do. And this is one of the main reasons. You got a bunch of second-year players that are going to step up for Florida this season. that experience is really going to help last year, this year. Got to take your lumps, got to take your bumps. But Florida's going to be better. Castell did go on to say, my freshman year, you could look at the record and all that, but we had so many freshmen play. So we're all coming back. He's saying it's like, let's turn this thing around. We don't want to go through that again. We're losing that experience from last year. So there you go. He says we're losing that whole experience from last year. Now, not experience in general, just the experience of last year. Like you said, move on. Build on it. So many guys coming back. You can look at the record. Don't want to go through that again. So throw that whole experience away. You don't want to go through it again. All right, so let's keep on at safety. Let's go back to Asa Turner. And you know what? We got to hear from him for the first time. He had a lot of good things to say.
Khalil just said every time he sees you lined up across him and he has to put his mouthpiece in.
Yeah.
Is that kind of what you bring?
I mean, that's kind of what I bring over here to the University of Florida. I feel like that's kind of instilled in me through Will Harris. Just a physical mentality and stuff like that, going to bring it every play. And I've had some ups and downs with my health and stuff like that. So some days it's less than others, but try and bring it every play.
Is that how you ended up here with Will Harris?
Yeah, that was the main connection. I played for him at Washington for the first 2 years. And so just hopping in the portal, he was kind of the first dude that hit me up. And so that connection goes a long way.
I mean, you played for a national championship last year. I mean, now you're at a place that kind of trying to rebuild and get to a point where it can compete for those. What have you seen with this team that stands out and impresses you culture-wise or talent-wise compared with what you came from?
I'm glad you brought that up. I'll just say growth. Just growth in all areas, and mostly the culture. I hear from dudes that's been here for like 5 years. They're like, it's come such a long way. And even for me, just being here for the past 6 months, I've seen it come so far. So I feel like the culture and everything Coach Nate brings, all the new staff, all the transfer portal players, we're just bringing the right culture and hopefully make some shake this year.
You're obviously a hard hitter, but this program also last year kind of had issues with turnovers and stuff. What can you bring from, do you think, that standpoint, ball skills?
Yeah, no, I think
you guys generating more.
Right, no doubt. I feel like I've had a hard time the past year to creating turnovers, just with redshirting last year, and I had one cast on each hand, so it's kind of hard to create turnovers. But I mean, coming out throughout my past 5 years of college, I had 6 turnovers or 6 picks, a couple fumbles and fumble recoveries and stuff like that. So I feel like me just bringing that, and also just the coaches emphasizing on turnovers. I feel like there's a big emphasis on it. Each day we got to get at least 3 picks in the DB room or else we're running. So I feel like we're trying to make that happen.
For me, look, that connection to Will Harris has to stand for something for a guy that's played a lot of football. It's known Turner is a physical player, and it sounds like he credits Harris, your DB coach Will Harris, for a big part of that. So hopefully, to me, for me, hopefully that's the indication of the type of mindset that Harris is going to bring to his players and demand from his players. Turner has really made his mark as a hard-hitting safety going back to spring, early fall camp so far. Go back to spring. And Jaquavion Frazier's even mentioned that Turner tackled him harder than anybody else during his time in college football. And there's some similar thoughts from other receivers out there. Go to Khalil Jackson. When he spoke to the media, he goes, every time I see him lined up across me, I got to put my mouthpiece in. I know he's going to bring it. And you heard that conversation early on with Asa Turner starting that press conference there. But it's you can see the other side of the ball. I won't necessarily call it fear, but they know Asa Turner's going to bring it. But, it's not just a tackling that stands out. Chimere Dike had to say this. He said, luckily, I haven't got tackled by him too much because we've only went live a couple of times, so it hasn't come up. But in blocking, it's not very fun in talking about going against Asa Turner. So that is welcome news from that position. Certainly, that there's some physicality there. And as I said, go back to the scrimmage. Asa Turner coming up and tackling running backs, coming up and tackling in pursuit. I think just being aggressive, not letting plays come to him, but attacking, pursuit of making plays. So let's circle it all back around to tackling in general. I'm going to just rely on the more experience and the more confidence paying off for that aspect of this defense. All right, Billy Napier, of course, we got to go back to what was the unfortunate news from Saturday's scrimmage. And Billy Napier did confirm that Jamari Lyons suffered an ankle injury and will be out for the season. As I said in the last episode, if you guys follow me on social media, you know how I was pegging Jamari Lyons to be a breakout player this year. So won't get to see that this year. Hopefully he can translate that into when he comes back next year. But it hit the players pretty hard. Billy Napier did admit that, look, all 130-ish players that were out there taking part in the scrimmage, he had never seen that before. They all went and surrounded Lyons as he was being carted off the field. So he lets you know just the feeling that and the camaraderie this team has. Let's go to the football aspect of it one more time. Billy Napier did say, I think the biggest thing was Jamari could play nose and end. He had some position flex. You're going to see Makai Burrow more, Kelby Collins more. And then we've got some guys that can develop there. Brian Taylor, DeAndre Robinson, Tavares Brown. That's an area we've got some players. There's some depth there. But I think those roles will be a little bit different. There will be some adjustment. But the biggest thing was Jamari can play nose and end. That's where we're going to have to shuffle the deck a little bit. We can also move Sapp over there. He's played some end before in the past. So I think we know it's going to be ideal if Cam Jackson, Des Watson can take most of the snaps there. You know, especially in the first and second down scenarios, to me, for now, it's imperative. And just in defense in general, but even more so now, it's imperative for Florida to be successful on the first and second downs to set up as many obvious passing situations as they can so you can slide over a Joey Slackman, a Kelby Collins, your Tyreek Slap sliding over the end if need be, if they need a hand there. But the guys that are going to be a little bit lighter in the pants, you know, you're going to need as many passing situations, many third down situations as possible. You know, I don't want to have to rely. If they go out there and prove it, sure, but you don't want to have to rely on guys that haven't played a lot of football up to this point for critical roles in the middle of that defense. So hopefully, if they're on the field, it's not because of necessity. It's because they earned it. You can use them situationally and sparingly, but would love to be able to bring those guys along and not have to force them out there. I remember I go back to 2020 in Florida having to force Jervon Dexter out. He was a 5-star true freshman, don't get me wrong, but look, remember, he didn't play a whole lot of football. And I thought he played well for a true freshman, but Florida was playing him faster than they wanted to in that situation. You don't want to have that happen again. I don't think it will. Florida, as you heard Napier say, they'll shuffle the pieces. They have Cam Jackson, Des Watson there. So it's imperative for now the Gators to stay even more healthy at that position. But to me, the biggest factor is how many valuable snaps Watson will now give you. Go back to the scrimmage. He was standing out there. As I said, he was in the backfield, tackles for loss from what I was being told. When he had to show up, he showed up. We're going to need that type of performance from Watson game in and game out. Let's go to the battle at wide receiver. Told you we would come back around to that position battle in this episode. And after the scrimmage, Napier was asked about the position and on if anyone flashed in the receiver group. And he said, I thought as a whole, that group had a good day. I think in scrimmages, the ball gets spread out. If you look at the stats, I bet there were 15 guys that caught 1, 2, 3 passes. Tank Hawkins had 2 touchdowns. One was in the red zone, and another was a vertical play. So we talked about explosives, right? Tank Hawkins from DJ Lagway had one. But keeping it going here from Napier, he is continuing to improve. But in general, I think that group had a good day, in the quote. So that group as a whole, look, we know it's a ton of competition. I feel much better about this group. You know, once they added Badger, coming out of spring as well, I feel much better about that group than I did when spring football started. You talk about a big week. Napier did go on to say they're going to have a big week in a competitive camp. Yeah, that's something I take away. We're getting further along now where you're going to have to start making some decisions. But Napier did go on to say, talk about a big week in a competitive camp. Much like we talked about, that's one of the positions where there's a ton of roles here, and they're going to be taking place over the next couple of weeks. So let's further that. Let's further that Hawkins talk. Tank Hawkins out there making plays. Billy Napier did say he got here in January. He had a great offseason. He's definitely playing faster. His skill level is improving. He's getting comfortable. And like we've talked about before, we kind of have those top three, and then you got this group that's competing. He's in that group. So right now, the top three, and I'm telling you guys, right now in the building, top three, Trey Wilson, Chimere Dike, and Khalil Jackson. With a group behind them that is battling, and it's a great competition, like we're being told here. And look, that hasn't existed since Billy Napier's been here. The competition at wide receiver hasn't existed like this. You have Elijah Badger, who's coming in, who's really, to me, knowing what he did, he's going to push. In the end, he's going to be the one pushing for that number 3 role. But do not forget about Marcus Burke. Continuing to hear good things about him. And those are the 2 names coming up the most as that next group. But then throw in Tank Hawkins, Aiden Mizell, Andy Jean, TJ Abrams. Finally, some competition at this spot. Are there enough snaps? This isn't an offense that's going to run 5 wide much. They're going to be playing some 2 tight ends at times as well. We all know that. Snaps become a premium in this offense. And for somebody like Tank Hawkins, are you taking away snaps from Trey Wilson to get him? Snaps if you're asking them to do a lot of the same things? How many times will they can be on the field at the same time? What packages will they have together for this group? Because if it's as deep on potential as we think it can be, you might see a whole lot of packages we didn't expect to see. Certain groupings, certain personnel out there we really didn't expect to see. If all these guys are going to continue to push and compete, you want to reward them. So we may see some. I go back to how Dan Mullen would do it at times. And look, I'm not trying to compare anything, but just comparing the situations. You'd have your first group of receivers, and then what? Drive 3 or 4, you'd see a whole second set of receivers come out there. Maybe you can see some scenarios like that. So let's keep the wide receiver talk going. And let's hear from one more transfer player. We heard from Asa Turner on defense at safety. Let's hear from Wisconsin transfer wide receiver, Chimere Dike.
Over the offseason, really improved from a speed standpoint. Can you just dive a little bit into the numbers, how you improved your PR, and especially from being an older guy, how much did that surprise you that you kind of had another level to go to?
I feel like it's a constant, work in progress of, from strength to your technique. But Coach Miles and his staff, they poured into us all winter, all summer, and I was able to see a lot of max speeds. I'm running around with a lot of really fast guys as well. So I think that iron sharpens iron, and being able to work out next to people who are running really fast, has helped me a lot.
What'd you get up to?
Up 22. So
yeah, Billy said you personal best at like 5 times, not straight, but
yeah.
You improved your best time 5 different times.
Yes, sir. Yeah, I pretty much think PR'd almost every time that we ran.
Well, just what does that kind of create in terms of confidence among the team and a little swagger, or what does it kind of create?
Yeah, I think when you see the work that you're putting in the offseason, it can be a grind, but when you see those results coming, I think it just gives you motivation to keep going, and put even more trust in the coaches and the plan they have for us.
What kind of progress you feel like you made this offseason during OTAs with spring under your belt?
It was huge, especially just being comfortable, having that experience, knowing defenses, but then getting your feet wet in the offense. It's a little different in how you see things. So having that understanding, having those reps behind me helped me see things a lot faster. I feel like, at practice I'm able to read stuff quicker and make decisions quicker.
How's that carried over into camp and just not going through, learning the offense and stuff like you were in the spring?
Yeah, even when you come to practice, in the spring I was kind of thinking more like, all right, what is my assignment? What's my assignment? And now it's more like, all right, how do I win on this route? What's the coverage? How's the coverage going to impact the way I'm running this route? So I can just look at it in more detail, I feel like.
How much of the spring was it like you and Graham talking Wisconsin playbook to like let you know, hey, this is what you were doing, or did you recall on that at all?
Yeah, we did that all the time, but just because concepts carry over, so it was like our first time running certain concepts, and it felt like we ran it, a bunch of times before. So I feel like even some of the newer concepts or some of the things that we didn't get to touch on as much at Wisconsin, we're kind of picking up on those as well too in the summer and seeing that progress.
You and Graham were on the scout team in Wisconsin. Like you probably have caught more passes from him than anybody in your life. What was it like not having him last year and then kind of reconnecting this spring?
Yeah, I mean, so me and Graham at Wisconsin, my freshman year was COVID, and that was his first year starting. So we kind of came in, we were both like too deep because he was behind Jack Cohn at the time. Jack Cohn goes out with the injury, so we kind of grew up together in college football. So having him is amazing, not only on the field but off the field as well. As my brother, somebody who does things the right way, and is a great member of the community as well. So I'm thankful that I get to play with him at least one more year. Hopefully maybe in the future there'll be another one. But
have you seen him grow at all in terms of what you came to this year, this spring, versus what your quarterback was, the friend he was, person he was in Wisconsin?
Yeah, I definitely have. I feel like just his maturity level continue to get older, as well as just decision making, his leadership ability. Not that he didn't have those things at Wisconsin, but they just have continued to progress and get better. And it's really nice to see how comfortable he is, and how much the guys have support behind him.
This guy, Chimere Dike, he's going to be a favorite for Graham Mertz. No two ways about it. It's there. It's there. Mertz is really comfortable with Dike as an option and someone he really trusts. And somewhere I've gotten, this relationship is strong. And because for the one thing, Dike is reliable in every facet of the word. He's reliable. So this relationship is strong, and they think it's really elevated both to be better players this year. DK's that versatile piece on the offense. He'll mostly play in the slot, but he can move around, can take handoffs. And I'm eager to see what improvements his speed does for him. He's a faster player than he was at Wisconsin. Now, I think overall playing against, in a faster league, the Big Ten's good in a lot of their own rights. But SEC overall faster league. So I think coming to Florida, he probably needed to be faster, and he has done so. Will he play faster? That's probably the bigger question there. I got a few questions. When I asked for questions a couple of weeks ago for fall camp questions, I knew this one would probably take some time. So in asking around, I did get a few questions about special teams. And to answer those, we're going to stay here in this wide receiver room because Trey Wilson and Badger, they've been repping as returners, and also Hawkins as well. So I think from everything I can see now, we're halfway through fall camp. There are probably some things going on still, trying to figure some things out. But Trey Wilson, Elijah Badger, Tank Hawkins, guys vying for return roles. Now, does it factor in? Do you want to put Wilson and Badger out there if they're going to be your top two receivers? As I mentioned, Badger's very reliable in a lot of ways. So look, for this wide receiver room, expect to see plenty from wide receivers all over the field. As I said, I think there's personnel groupings where you can get some new looks on the field and also in the return game. We know about the speed Billy Napier's recruited in guys like Wilson, in guys like Hawkins. I know we have pegged those guys to maybe have a special teams role. Certainly sounds like that's the plan right now. All right, there we go. Man, a lot of good discussion here. Getting feedback from Billy Napier in that first scrimmage. I thought he was pretty honest in a lot of his assessment there. But then a lot to look forward to. A lot to look forward to as we're about halfway through. Another scrimmage will be coming up this weekend. So we'll be doing the same thing next week. But, yeah, counting down the days. Counting down the days here. Later this week, Gators Breakdown of, as I said earlier in the episode, recruiting. That will probably our last big recruiting before the season starts. Some commitments coming up this week and next week. There, Hanks, Fitzgerald, Montgomery, all in the next couple of weeks. But, of course, Friday, Saturday, you have Hanks and Fitzgerald So we'll see what those decisions hold for the Gators. But we will be here to cover it right here on Gators Breakdown, of course. And that'll do it for this episode of Gators Breakdown. I am your host, David Waters. You can find me on social media at GatorDave_SEC. Guys and girls out there, thank you for joining me on this episode of Gators Breakdown.